Welcome back. So, we're ready to put the engine in. So obviously you come here and we're going to put the engine back in with the helper again. Yeah, that's it. So what have we done? Well, with this engine here, the block was fine. The cylinder head, and I can't remember if I put this in the video or not, the original cylinder head was no good. It was cracked between the pistons, or between the valves, the pistons. Replaced it with another one, and that seemed to be broken as well, and they cracked in the same spot. Got none, now I have two. So what I ended up doing was using a third one. I used one from a 74 to a 76 because it has the ERG port in it. However, when you machine the bottom of it, you can machine it with and put the hardened seat in and actually put the original size valves in for whatever year be. So whatever size ones you need be, which to be honest, I think all the intake of the size, it's just the exhaust is different size. Anyway, what's the difference with this one? Well, this one actually should give it a little bit more power, and the reason why is because the ports are bigger. So with the late model ones, and it's the same as actually all the UK models, they all have a bigger port, 22mm I believe. So the early North American models and the US ones ran a smaller port. So when you buy a gasket for the exhaust, when you go to put it on and you get a new one, because they may give you the correct one or you may just have a standardized one for a UK model, just have a look and see if it's lined up with the holes. If it's not, you may end up with like a little small quarter mil. You may have to blade it out just to get it to line up with the ports. Otherwise, you'll actually lose intake and the car, it won't run good at all. So just be mindful of that. Because this is a late one, I won't have that problem because I already measured it. So if you do have an early cylinder head, which is the 307837 cylinder head, yeah, I have it written on the board here because I can never remember. If you have that one, you'll probably need to check it, and maybe the 312388 cylinder head as well. That I know that takes a double spring, but I'm not sure if the ports are bigger or smaller on that. So we're going to be ready to put this in, okay?
Yeah.
So we painted it. It looks nice. I'm pretty happy with the color codes we've gone with. We've gone with a nice silver and a black. We're going to throw some high speed of where we got to this point, and then we're going to throw some more high speed at it for putting the engine in. What you will notice as though is the front, I put the timing chain cover and everything on it, and when I was putting the last collar in, I realised I forgot to put the oil thrower in, so I had to pull it all back off and put it in. I just can't remember if I recorded it or not, or if I just took it off and just threw the oil thrower in. So when you're watching the video, if you don't see me put the oil thrower in, it is in there. I've done it afterwards. I have a tendency to miss stuff and I catch it later on. So for now, they are going to watch some high speed of where we got to this point.
Yeah.
And then what we do, we have to do high speed as well, putting it in. We could do a normal speed because I got it in less than 30 minutes, but I don't know if we're going to do that. There's going to be a lot of wobbling around. We have to go get the engine mounts and everything. In this case, what I've done is I took the wheel off. I have it propped up enough for it to go in. Do I have a preference for putting it in front or back? I'm going to say probably to the side. I find it a little better. I know most of them go in from the front, but that's with the gearbox. I just find that I do lose the pressure of the front, but I can always push it by hand. But I find pulling from the side allows me to, I need more left to right wiggle room and up and down than forward or backwards. So I'd rather put it in from the side, the crane, than coming straight in from the nose. Yeah, this gearbox is done, so we have to drop all them, we have to put the trolley jack underneath, and yeah. So they're going to see some high speed of what we've done before, and then it's going to roll on towards putting the engine in. So the next time I talk to you, the engine should be in. So roll on some high speed, and let's go put an engine in, Sassy. Yeah. All right. See you in a minute. welcome back. So, I know I said when I do it that the engine will all be in, but I just want to point something out. So, obviously trying to get the engine in, I was struggling a bit, and I couldn't understand why it wouldn't sit in the extra. It was short about, just not half an inch, just over a quarter of an inch. Because I put the bolt in for the water return pipe here, and I've got to take it out. So that nut was sitting right between the crease, and that's why she wouldn't go in. That's why I was going back and forth. So would have got it in pretty smooth. So what I'm doing now is I'm putting the 3 studs in at the top. So I know they're meant to be the threaded studs with the collar in the middle. I don't like them, and the reason why is that I suppose they're okay if you're doing the engine and gearbox outside the car, but when I'm putting it in this way, I don't like it because you have the threaded end pointed out and it's trying to line up with the hole, and all they're doing is scratching and damaging the threads. So I'd rather do that and then put the studs in, like a bolt in instead. That's me personally, but if you want to keep it the way it originally is, if you're, like I said, if your engine and gearbox is out and you're putting it all in as one, that's fine. But for this way, I would suggest take them out and put them in. So you see a long stud in there. What I do is when I get it down so far, I angle it. So I'll put it in at an angle, and I'll get the lay shaft. No, it's not the lay shaft. The output shaft on the gearbox. And once it slides into the clutch and it starts to move in, then I try straighten it out and I bring it down until I just keep pushing in, bit down in until it starts to in. I do put the stud in because I need to turn to rotate the engine because the splines have to line up, and eventually it will just line up and then in it will go. It's not too bad to do, but the bolts down here, when it starts to go down and go in, as some of them line up, I'll put long ones in and I put a nut at the end. And the only reason these are here is guides. So the whole point is that it stops it constantly, the two points moving out of sync, that at least they stay. So instead of the engine and gearbox going up and down, it sort of more rotates now, and it helps line up the rest of it. I did take the trolley jack out too early because it wasn't all the way in enough, and when I took it out, it ended up like the gearbox was straight and the engine was still at an angle, so that was never going to work. So I had to jack it back up until I got it further in, and I could get at least another bolt in, a short bolt in like one of the holes that match up. And once I had that, then I could let it down, because then at least it will all go down as one. Anyway, so that's it. It went in pretty smooth. I've done one before, it went in absolutely perfect. So this is almost. So all I'll do now is I'll start putting some studs in. Once I put the top 3 studs in and tighten them up, I know it's not going anywhere, and now I can actually move the engine up and down, and I'll work on the engine mounts to put them on. Once I get, before I put them on though, actually, I remind myself, because I do this every time, I forget to put the damper on, because the damper doesn't fit. So once I have them 3 in, what I do is I just jack it up and I put a pry bar in, and I sort of push the engine and gearbox back a bit, just enough to get the damper in and over there, and then I can bolt it on. It's always a problem trying to get it, because there's absolutely no room here. And even if you jack it up, there's still no room because the engine's at an angle, so you have to actually put a pry bar in. Usually I put one here and I push against the water pump, and I just push it forward, and it just gives you just a quarter of an inch, just enough to slide the damper in there, the harmonic balancer, if you want to call it, whatever you want to. I mean, there's everything has different names. And then once that's in, then you can put the nut on, and it's pretty straightforward. And then from there, we'll button her all up, and then we'll start getting the manifold and all that jazz put in. So I don't know if anybody noticed, but like if I creep all the way across here, the silver car sitting here. Does anybody recognize that? Yeah, that's the P6P. She's back from paint. So there she is. And I'll give you a little sneak preview. So obviously I didn't put the doors in it yet, but she's just hanging up there, and I'm just going to actually do so much of the inside first before I put off. All these panels have to come back off again. I just got them so they weren't on the ground. But yeah, she's back. So I'm hoping in the next couple of weeks from this point, I'll be getting cracking on that. But I have other projects in the meantime. I have another car coming in for a whole... Actually, there's a good valid point. As you can see, the wiring here. Good, decent job of the up-to-date fuse box and the wiring. There is a car that came into me outside that needs all that wiring done. It's one of those kits you get where you get individual wires and you connect it all up, so that's going to be a job and a half. spaghetti. It's literally making a loom. So that will come in after this to get done. And I have another little thing of a TR7 to do a bit of work on. I have a TR4 out there to get running. And then once they're all up and running, then I'll go into the P6P and I'll bring in the TR250. So the 250 probably won't get started till later on the year. I was hoping during the summer, but it'll probably be later on because I want to try to get that done for British Car Day 2025. All being good. I just hope. I have all the stuff, pretty much all the stuff for it. I'm still battling what I'm going to do with the interior. I have some great ideas. It's just figuring out how to do it. Okay, so I guess we'll throw in a bit more high speed as we continue to put the engine back in. My little helper unfortunately had to go. It's our knife for dance. It's easier to get her to take it out. It's hard to get. I don't like letting her lowering it. I don't like anybody lowering the engine in on me because I'm very delicate with it. She'll come back and help me with more. Anyway, roll on the high speed again. All right, so we continue on with it. So I done so much fast forwarding, and then what happened was I was putting the alternator on, and I realized that the belt wasn't fitting. And the reason why is that obviously I've forgotten you have this big ass alternator on it, which must be an aftermarket something that gives you a high power, but it's not that. It sits out so far that the belt wasn't long enough, so I had to go get a longer belt to make it fit. So yeah, that delayed me, so I had to go outside and do that. What else? Yeah, I done the timing, so I checked you didn't see it, but I actually checked the space on this to make sure there was enough play. I put all the bolts I finished putting all the bolts back in. The starter motor is in. We have our exhaust manifold on. So this is his one, and yes, I powder coated this one, so it can take a nice little, bang. So instead of just putting paint on it, I literally powder coated it. Turned out great, except for this. There's a little blob. Yeah, unfortunately, when I was powdering it, the gun took a blob of powder and just poof, and it all accumulated there. So I wasn't sure if it was going to melt off. I guess it didn't. It just blobbed. So you don't see it anyway, but yeah, it's a nice finish on that. I'm pretty happy with that. We've put the exhaust back on. So what I found it easier, because I've always struggled to do a few things, and every time I do, I found a better way. I found it best this time to actually put the bolts into the exhaust system, lightly just hold enough, and then pull the whole system up and clip it on. Because usually it's either I put this on, then I'm struggling to get the exhaust up, or vice versa. I bolt it on and then I can't get the whole system up. So yeah, I found a little easier way of doing it. What else do we have? I've done the same with this. This is actually powder coated. It's pretty similar color, but it's powder coated. So we'll take it again. I'll take a nice little bang and not chip. I've done some in red and everything, but like just based on the rest of the colors here, I went with this one. I'd like to do a bit of powder coat the whole block and engine. It'd be nice to actually get a great finish so it stays that way, but it's hard just because I don't have nothing big enough. Pulley, the damper, I've had to change that as well. The original one was red. Where's she gone? She's in the room there. She was red, and unfortunately I went to put it on and it slipped off and it dropped and went down, and I took a chunk out of it, so I've had to replace it with another one. So it's unfortunate. I would have liked the red because I liked a bit of red now. So where are we moving on to? We're going to move on to put the fan in. So we're going to put the aluminium rad, the fan on. Then we'll continue just to put the bits and pieces back on. It's not too much to go back on. I have to put a blanking plate down where the fuel pump is because he has an electric fuel pump. And obviously this wiring system is the newer one. So like there's a few odd connections that are not fully used to. So, and the wires are different color for some reason. So like, I believe this is the, there's the 3 ones for the, I believe it is, and I could be wrong. I have to go look at it, but I'm just trying to follow the wires, and I should have took a picture and took it off. Based on this should be our coil, but the fact that there's a 3-prong here makes me think that's the oil pressure, but I don't know what that's for. That's normally into the wiring harness, so I might have to go back and look at the picture I took it off to see where it's going to go to. But yeah, everything's nice and clean so far, all good. Yeah, that's it. And then we're going to take the dash off because he wants to change it. He gave me a new gauge, a new amp gauge. He wants to make to change it to more an original looking one. So we're going to end up removing the dash. And that's really it. And then let's start her up, do a bit of a change in the oil of the rear end, and send her home. Alright, I guess from here it's a bit more high speed as I continue to put the engine apart. So roll on the high speed. See you in a minute. Okay, so we're creeping along here. I have the manifolds on and all buttoned up. So I start putting them in, I put some piping on it. I decided to go with new bolts instead of the original studs, to say the word. So if I zoom in, you can see I just went with new bolts all the way through instead of the stud with the collar in the middle. Only because, well, some of them are clean, some of them are terrible, and some of them want to go in correctly, so I just replaced them all. Anyway, moving forward from here, something I want to point out if you're doing this as well, putting them together, is the heater valve. So with this is based on the original style. I'm not a fan of it. They seem to leak a lot, but they leak for a reason. Well, if you leak up here, then it's just the fault with the problem, the unit. But if they leak down here, what I find is that I do this when I do the pressure test. So when the rad is in, so when it fills up this void here, I do a pressure test, which means I put the coolant into it. I have a little tester and I put up to 15 psi, and I see if it holds. I see if there's any leak anywhere. I look for any fluids coming anywhere. And to be honest, 9 out of 10 times, if I'm going to get a leak anywhere, it's going to be here. And the reason for that is it's not straight. So obviously this is the pipe they give you, right? So it's just a straight pipe. So they give you a straight one for this one. And I don't know why they don't make it curved. Why don't they make it pre-curved? And the reason why is that when we put it on and we turn it and go to put it in, now I know it's too long, but if the unit itself, and if I turn it in and put this on, so let me pop that back off. Let's say it goes on here. So I've slipped it on, it's curved around, it's heading back to the firewall. If it's curved too much, what happens is this side here, right in here, when you do it, if you notice, it leaves a little space. And no matter how much you put a clamp or two on this, it's going to leak. And it's going to keep leaking. Some people double it up, it's still going to leak. The only way to solve that is to actually move the valve. So move this. So the best way to do it is the more, if you look at it, if I was to say this is positioned, let's say compared to the engine, put this off. Let's say that was positioned at 7 o'clock. Well, you probably want it near 7:30 or 8. Because the more straighter it is, then the actual, it sits in a lot better. And I've discovered this doing a few of them. And I've seen people putting, like I said, double clamps under the tri-stop and it still leaks from here, or you get it steams out. It's because the valve is not in line with the hose, and the hose has too much of a bend on it, and you can see it creates that little gap. So just be mindful. I always just start it off here, and then I can see now after putting the hose on that there's still a little gap. So once I have it on, and I have it connected down to the firewall, and then so I'll come over and I'll zoom in again for the look. If it's turned sideways and I see that gap, sorry, I don't know if it's focused in yet. Hopefully it's focused in. But if I turn it and see that gap, then I move it. I will move it until the gap goes. And then once the gap is gone, which doesn't take much, like I said, you'd be surprised how little you turn it, then I can clamp it up and I can guarantee it won't leak. So I just wanted to throw that out there because it is a constant problem, and people even bypass this whole system just because of something simple as that. It's not necessarily the unit. Yes, I know some of them can leak from under here, but that's a pressure system. That's too much pressure in the system, which means that you have no, for example, that could be down to the wrong thermostat or the overflow. Like usually the thermostat is not allowing the pressure to release, sort of relieve pressure to release it into the overflow. So that's usually why that gives up, and it will always go to the weakest point. And if you have a good seal all through your piping, even through here, then it's going to find that little gap, because that's only like a pressure. That's only fold over and like compressed, so you have a tendency to leak. Anyway, that's my little 2 cents on that, is keep an eye on it. So if you're ever changing it, you take it off and you put it back on, you might have to rotate it more towards 8 o'clock, more almost pointed towards this than down. Because normally it's like, I said, it's like a 7 o'clock. Bring it a bit more nearer 8 and it should resolve a lot of your problems. A problem if you leak from there. Other than that, I'm pretty happy with it so far. That's it for now. It says the carbs are all back in, all that's on. I'm going to put the rest of the piping on. I'm just touching up because I'm the relief valve and the spraying red, because I just want a different colour on it. And then I have to figure out which rad we're putting in, because currently we're putting the original back in, so it's going to be out and get a bit of a power wash. However, I want to see if the customer wants a new aluminium rad. I meant kind of aluminum. Oh dear. So yeah, and then I slowly start putting everything back together again. To blank off the fuel thing. So yeah, getting there. Hopefully a few more days and she'll be good to go. That's it. Thanks for watching. Appreciate it as usual. Any comments, questions, concerns, throw it up. I'll help you as best I can. Or if there's something else to throw up and somebody else has some great information or help for you, by all means. Again, I always ask, keep it friendly. Keep it positive. I mean, nobody likes negative comments in any way, shape, or form, regardless what it is. If it's not for you, it's not for you. If it is for you, that's great. Just, be supportive of each other. That's all I'll say. Yeah, okay. So, see you in the next part, where hopefully it's back to daylight again, because it's the end of the day. And, yeah, I'm looking forward to getting stuck into this P6P here. That's going to be quite fun. Oh, the way I have some good plans for that. The plan is, as I said, I know I said in the first video, the plan is to have it ready for British Car Day 2025. That's the plan. However, I don't know. I'm starting to doubt it already because there's so much car to build. As much as we have everything here, but it's just, I'm getting swamped with other tasks, to say the word. Between, like I said, finishing this, everything got delayed. It's obviously Ancaster's gone past, so like I lost a good few days trying to get all the parts sorted and everything. So time catches up, and I just think that time may catch up with me in this one, and I might not get it in time. But trust me, it's going to be worth the while. Wait until you see the videos, what I plan on doing with that. It's going to be different. It's going to be so unique. I really can't wait to do it. And then, like I said, as I work on that one, I may have the 250 beside me. However, I think that's going to get pushed on to late summer before I actually start that. But yeah. All right. Again, sorry about that. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next part. All right, so she's looking more and more like a car. So I have pretty much most of it in. I'd say like 95% of it. Just tying up a few loose ends here. So I was obviously putting all the cables in, joined them all up. I still have to fix this one. I have to attach that. I was never attached. That's the HUD release. I have to attach it up here out of the way. Yeah, just tidying up all the bits and pieces. I was connecting. The last thing I've done is the fuel line. Radiator. The plan was to put the aluminium rad in, but unfortunately I had none in stock. I only had the one here, and that is for a Tier 4 4A, which is pretty much an identical rad. The only difference is the spout is actually in the middle and not over in the corner. So I thought about doing that and changing this, and I thought about putting the one in for a 75, 76, but then to go get different holes, and I hadn't got that in black, so like, I'll just put the original back in. So, the original went back in, and with that, I was going to put the black shroud in, but instead of that, I'm going to put the stainless steel one. So the stainless steel rad will go in instead, so when it's all done, that will go in, and it'll give it a nice effect when it's done. Wiring, yes, I ran the wiring all the way across. I put it in fact, I ran the wire across, came back, took it off again, and put another wire across. And then I realized, normally I do that. I always put it on this side, but then I realized that the power wire normally goes down to around here, where you'd normally find a fuse box. However, it's on this side. So I'm like, I'm not going to take it all back off again. So my little cheat for this is, what I'm going to do is I'm going to most likely, I'm going to probably tap into the fuel pump. So this should be the power for the fuel pump. I'm hoping it's on the ignition side, where it's on the ignition key and not straight off the battery or anything like that. I'll test it when I put power to it, and if it is, I can just branch off it, put a fuse, and happy days. If not, I can always go off the alternator, but I don't want to do that, only because if you turn the engine off and it's still hot, yes, it will keep going, but I just don't want to draw on off the battery. I just don't want it to keep pulling power off it. I'd rather have it on the ignition side, because the car shut down, it's going to cool down anyway. Worst case, what I'll do is I'll just run the wire right through, and I'll go straight to the ignition, and I'll tap it off that. I'll put a fuse and right to the ignition. So yeah, so yeah, I'm just tidying everything up. He has an electronic ignition, so we have a tube here that's doing absolutely nothing. So I kept moving and thinking I was connecting, and then I realized you had the electronic ignition, and it's connected back to the carb. So I'm going to remove that altogether and blank it off on the bottom. Same as what I already done. I already blanked the top end off, because his this is already blanked off. Whoa, here comes the train. I was going to the way, so it's not loud. Yeah, I'm getting a little stuck because I'm waiting on a gasket to get that on. I ran out of gaskets. We have more valve covers than we had gaskets, plus people ordered just the gaskets when you get the valve covers from more expensive places than Planet 6 parts. Remember that. So, yeah, I'm waiting on that. So other than that, I just had to put all the rest of the electrics together. She's almost done. What I will be doing, though, is the dash. So I'm going to be putting LEDs in. So it's an early one. So join me on the next video, or I might already be up by the time you're looking at this. Where I'm going to take the dashboard off and change these to LED. I'm only putting so many in because, for example, the indicator and everything is going to stay halogen because I'm not doing the exterior, so there's no need for that to change. So it's just the illumination lights I'm going to do. There is a gauge hanging off there, as you can see. What I've done was I had started it, and I was taking that out, and I've done it the hard way, obviously, to take the amp gauge out, and you got one that's closer. You just wanted a different amp gauge in, and I was at the point of putting it back in, then I realised I had to take it all off to change the bulbs anyway, so... yeah, we're going to do a video on that one. So I'll do another video on removing the dashboard and swapping the LED. Yeah. And that's really it. Other than that, it says I have that. I have the rear diff to change the oil on. But yeah, a few little bits and pieces. I'm hoping by tomorrow I can get it all done, except for the valve cover. I can't do anything. I have no gasket. I can run it by using it. I'm going to swap it and put an original on, and just to run it for now. Because I'm in two minds whether to put the canister on it. He hasn't got the charcoal canister. He only has the two out of the carbs straight to the head. I like to put on the canister just because it's, again, just a draw and it catches it. But in all honesty, like, there's nothing wrong with that system the way it is. A lot of people do it just to save some room, save some, well, piping and all that jazz. But ideally, it's meant to go down to the canister because it's meant to go through there, and it's any, should I say, oil or liquids is meant to get trapped, and therefore you don't have the oils and liquids going back into the carbs, because it still gets stuck in the charcoal, which goes to the anti-spark and stops all that stuff. All that emission stuff they came up with back then. Anyway, yeah, I'm also waiting on a bolt. So, because I had the ERG, I'm waiting for a bolt, which should be a 3/4 inch fine thread bolt. Someone did mention before, no, I swear I've read it, that somebody said you can use a bolt from the sump. But I've tried it. It looks like it's almost, it could go in, but I don't think it's the right thread pattern. Or maybe just different style ones. I don't know. I'll just pick some up. Maybe it's 2 different sizes. But yeah, I've put another one in and it was nowhere near it. So like, maybe a particular year or a particular pan has the right size to fit it. But yeah, it's a 3/4 inch fine thread. So I might have a look and see what ones I have floating around to work. Otherwise, I have a bolt on the way anyway. Yeah, that's it. So join me in the next part where it should be fully done, and we're going to turn the key and get this thing running. And yeah, if any comments, questions, concerns, give me a shout. I'll help you as best I can. As I always say, keep it positive, no negative stuff. I mean, we're all here to enjoy it. And remember, Plan 6 Parts is cheapest for parts in Canada. Cheapest. No, look, we try our best to be as cheap as we can. I know we're the cheapest on a lot of stuff, maybe not everything, but I know we're the cheapest for dashboards, 100%. And original dashboards. So yeah, thanks for watching. See you in the next video where we turn it over, and keep an eye out for the video on the dashboard. And yeah, see you in the next part.